When we caught up with the riders yesterday morning, they had almost 600 grueling miles behind them. Kilkenny came out to greet them in style to send them on their way over an 85-mile stage with 3 stiff climbs in the Wicklow Mountains that would bring them to Naas. Meath man Seamus Kennedy, riding for the Ireland team, had held the yellow jersey from the previous Sunday. Today could be the crunch.
The Germans watching me very, very closely, and so is Paddy Flanagan. As I say, I have quite a strong team, and I'm not a bit worried, because I know the team is behind me all the way.
Are you the important man on the team, or are your team members more important than you, in fact, at this stage?
Well, the team members, I'd say, are more important at the moment, because they're doing all the hard riding for me, and they're closing all the gaps, and chasing the danger men up the road, and that sort of thing, and making sure that at the same time that I don't get punctured, or, you know, and it's very important to have a good team behind you, and my team is really riding well for me.
So off they went. Weather conditions a little cooler than in previous days, but there was little doubt that the climbing in the Wicklow Mountains was going to sort out the tying trio at the head of the field. Seamus Kennedy was leading in points, but on equal time with Paddy Flanagan and the German Zebisch. Colm Nulty was riding to consolidate his lead in the King of the Hills race. Paddy Flanagan of Kildare, at 38 years of age, was the dark horse. The German Joseph Zebisch was another rider that would take some watching, and of course there was Shea Hanlon. Undoubtedly the hero of the Discover Ireland Ross was Gabriel Howard of the Meath team. He had ridden from the previous Tuesday with a fractured left hand. Several breaks were attempted over the first 40 miles, but it was eventually Paddy Flanagan who got away from the pack as they climbed into the mountains after Hackettstown.
Tough work, Paddy, is it?
Huh?
Tough work.
No.
No. Enjoy yourself. Up to there. We don't know, really.
There's still half a minute.
Cooled by the odd artificial downpour, Flanagan opened up a gap of over 30 seconds as he climbed Ockavana and Drumgoff. The pack behind was also breaking up from the exertions.
You feel good, Paddy?
Huh?
You feel good?
I feel all right.
Think you'll make it okay?
No. There's so many chances.
The chasers were by now Shea Hanlon and Mick Cahill of Cork. They were closing on the tenacious Flanagan and pulling away from the other contenders like Seamus Kennedy and the German Zebisch. Carlafuca, O'Hanlon and Cahill joined up with Paddy Flanagan. With less than 10 miles to the stage end, this trio went to work together. They were over a minute up on the second group, which included Zevish. Seamus Kennedy dropped back with a puncture. Mick Cahill collected a puncture over the last 2 miles, but held on grimly with Flanagan and Seamus O'Hanlon. In the sprint to the line, O'Hanlon edged clear. Cahill took over second place, and Paddy Flanagan in third place took over the race leadership. His courageous ride 35 miles out from the finish certainly had paid off. In general classification, he was now 70 seconds ahead of Zevish, and Seamus Kennedy was relegated to third.
I didn't make the leave for the time trial tomorrow with Kennedy and the German. I was afraid of the German. So I said I'd go away early on in the mountains, like 13 them out. I didn't expect to get away. I just meant to leave them third for tomorrow. So when I got away, then I stayed away and put all I had into it. But it's the only day that I tried to ride a bike. The rest of the week I've been sitting in Kennedy, and I'm sorry for Seamus Kennedy that he didn't win this race. But Kennedy did his best.
I didn't expect him to be going so well. At 38 years of age, you don't expect a man to be going that well.
If one is to judge by the numbers competing at all levels and the standard of competitors within the ranks of all three associations, the ICF, the NCA and the NICF. The present attempt to unify is experimental in that the bodies still agree to differ for the moment. But the health race thought us that with newfound stars like Stephen Roach, the future is indeed very bright.
I'd like to leave a mark, like I have something I think that a lot of fellas would like to have in cycling. So I'd like to leave a mark if I can. So I've just finished serving my time, so I have a trade behind me now. So what I'm doing now is getting a bit of experience, and with a bit of luck, hopefully next year I'll go to France for a few months as an amateur and see how it goes over there. Use it as a stepping stone, like just don't jump in the deep end, like just gradually build up. The team makes an awful sort of difference to the rider wearing the yellow jersey, because as you know yourself, the man in the yellow jersey is the marked man. Every time you breathe, you've got 100 riders breathing in your neck, so you can do nothing at all. So the team really help you a lot.
Before I come on the race now, I met a lot of people that's racing years, and they said these boys would never get on because they're all top men. Every one of the riders in this now, John and Tony won the Tour, and Stephen, with a bit of luck, is set to win the Ross. And Nolan has been a professional, and Ollie's been at the Olympics. He was at the Olympics only 20. And I was told this by people that's in the game 25 years, he wouldn't get on. And I tell you, the fun we had this week, outside of, it's very serious on the road, but we had some fantastic fun between the 8 of us.
This year in the Ross Talton, we're really racing against people that just live in Ireland and race in Ireland all the time. Like, you're not bringing in real good, strong outside competition. In the Tour of Ireland, there just seems to be that extra bit of speed there all the time. It keeps the whole field moving along much harder. And in this race, if a number of people just stop racing for a number of miles, the field just slows down completely. There's no further riders here really are getting a bit on it in years, and possibly they're not really contributing an awful lot to the racing.
Is there room in Ireland for two big races, two big 9-day stage races?
Well, there is room for it because it's really promoting the sport, and it's good to get a big stage race in June and another stage race in August. It gives you plenty of time to recover from one, and you've also 2 chances to do well in the year. Well, if you do bring in good foreigners, it will improve the sport because you're going to improve your own standard.
And so the Tour of Ireland was one of the first in the 60s. It was a rarity for an Irishman to finish in the 4-6 on stage. But as the years progressed, the Irishman was getting up more and more. And then when I think Peter Dodd was the first Irishman to win it, and after that, the Irish standard was just so high that they were able to maintain those sort of performances and win stages every year.
You're asking John a question there about the tours. I think that they could have one for a national tour, just home-based riders,
Exactly, yeah.
and another on invitation only. And I'm not talking about bringing Olympic champions, but you'd want good guys from the continent, you know. Our lads well able to mix it with them. I think John proved it last year against the Spaniards, well able to mix it.
Undoubtedly, it's a new era ahead of us now, and I think there's a general willingness among all riders and among all associations for this to develop even further. I would see the next stepping stage whereby we'd all merge for international competition, perhaps even next season. And it's the riders and the other associations in the NCA who are going to benefit from this. All these 5 lads on the team, they've had superb international competition this year, last year, going back over the past 3-4 years. They've had the best of international competition, and while at times they haven't done the best in it, it has developed them now into top-class riders. And by sending them to these international events, they improve their own standards all the time.
You don't have to have unity to promote schoolboy and junior sections in clubs, in the federation. You just need a lot of manpower, and that's where the Irish Cycling Federation falls down a little bit, I think, on the NCA, is in the manpower end of it. They seem to be able to get more officials to run schoolboy races and to run junior races, and it's an awful lot of work involved. We have seen this now in this past couple of days, especially in the stage end towns. The big interest there has been in the health race, the interest in the evening races even that the Ross Tolton promoters run, which is something that the Tour of Ireland doesn't do, and that creates a big interest after the stage in the evenings. And this small things like this count an awful lot.
Well, the initial agreement this year, from the start of the year, was that each association would promote its own domestic competition for the 1979 year. That will be reviewed by a working party which has already been set up in October of 79, and a fresh formula will be produced for next year. Hopefully at that stage international competition will be open to the three associations. As it stands at the moment, the NCA do not wish to take part in our international competition. So hopefully for 1980 this will be changed. If that happens, it will open the door for everybody to compete in the Olympic Games.
Judging from those comments by ICF members, there is no bitterness and no barriers have been set up so that by decision time next October, the entire question cannot be satisfactorily resolved. In the past, the blame for the fragmentation was often placed with the NCA. Whether that was right or wrong now seems irrelevant. What matters is that the riders have greatly enjoyed the experiences of the past few months and they wanted to continue.
I feel at this stage that it will bring a better understanding between the three associations, and I think it has certainly proven that we can be united, more united, and race in the future.
Way back in '68, I was with the ICF, and I always thought the ICF paid more attention to the riders. They have an Olympic training squad there for the last couple of years, and they send the riders out abroad to England and other countries to ride stage races. They get better competition than we do, really. For the last couple of years now, what's it, 1961 or 2, here with the NCA, like Seamus O'Handle, like myself, and has like been the top man. It's nearly 20 years. Like Seamus Kennedy is top man for the last 2 or 3 years, and there seems to be no one coming up in the NCA, the same as with the ICF. Like the younger riders we have don't seem to put it all into it.
The younger riders, I think they're lazy. They're not interested in, just content to follow. Like the more experienced riders, like as Paddy Flanagan just said, Seamus O'Handle and myself, 5 or 6 more of the senior riders, they're just content to follow every Sunday. Well, now there is a group of underage riders in the 16 to 17 age bracket, which I think will be very good in it'll take about 2 to 3 years. And I think if they get the proper attention and proper care, that I think the standard in the NCA will certainly improve in the next 4 or 5 years. But it'll be certainly another year or so before there's any signs there. There's not a great difference between the standard in the ICF and the NCA. There are about 5 or 6 riders in the ICF who are very, very good, and they have got great experience in World Championships and Tours of Britain and Tours of Europe, and you know, that all adds up. And you see, our lads in the NCA don't get that competition, and I suppose it shows in a stage race like this. Now, for instance, the NCA riders who were competing in the health race this year, we had no big stage race at all before the health race. Now, the ICF had the Tour of Britain, they had the Tour of Europe, and they had numerous other races, like the Isle of Man. So all the riders who competed in the Tour of Britain and the Tour of Europe, that's just 2 or 3 weeks ago, are all going very, very well. So you can see that these races are certainly helping, you know. So yeah. I think that the NCA will have to just buck up and get a more professional approach and concentrate more on the youth of the association. Like as Paddy Flanagan and Seamus O'Handle said, they're the top now for 20 years. There's something wrong, isn't there?
Personally, I don't think that is the full question. A lot depends on the character of the individual. You take a couple of fellas who are good competitors, good, outstanding performers, and they'll do well whether they get good international competition or not. And I've seen fellas in this race who didn't do any better than Seamus Kennedy, who had been here, there and yonder through the year. So that's not necessarily the answer. But my answer to the thing is that I would like to see this as the last health race, or Rosthalton, in which there was competition between the ICF and the NICF, because I think that this is a temporary phase, the phase when we would be talking about one or the other and which is the better. I'd like to see the time come when it would be a question of whether the Wicklow team be the Dublin team, because being a Dublin man myself, I'm glad to say that if the ICF team, if we were all together, the ICF team would have been the Dublin team, and Dublin would have won the race very clearly, as Dublin did in the 60s, because I remember being on a Dublin team in the 60s where we took, I think it was 6 places out of the first 10. It's simply a Dublin thing. We're the best.
I don't agree, of course, that the Dublin rider is the best, or that Dublin is the best, because, you know, of the 1 million people here in Dublin, there's about 750,000 of them from the country. And as such, I suppose the Dubliner with the countryman blood could well be the best. In the case of the country, the Ross has always been at its best in the country. It has been received best in the country, in the rural towns, simply because they've had their own heroes coming into these places. It's not really to see the Dubliners that come. You could not run a race without Dubliners. So it will, the new association, and I take it we will have a new association, will have all. It will have the Dubliners, but it is necessary to have a strong country representation for this to survive.
I think it will look. The riders, anyway, they're all for unity. This year now, the standard has improved all around, and there's no such thing. The first few races with little groups here and there, you'd have ICF riders in one corner of a changing room and NCA in the other. But in the last month or so, or last 6-8 weeks, there's none of this at all. It's all disappeared. And on the road, everybody's racing. They're not concerned about what association they're in. They're just concerned about racing. Simple as that.